Hello, and thank you for watching this ag forecast for the southern U.S. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. It's another warm and muggy start to the day here across the southeastern U.S. Temperatures already in the mid-70s, even an 80-degree reading down there at Miami-Dade Airport. As you head off toward the west, though, at least portions of Oklahoma and Texas are tapping into a chillier or a cooler start to the day here. Temperatures in the low to mid-50s as you head off toward that region. But this warm air mass here really confined to the southern and eastern part of the country. And that is because of a frontal boundary that kind of extends across the northeast into the eastern Corn Belt, and then another front down here across parts of the Central Plains. The upper level low that made all the news over the last several days, bringing the cold air into the Rockies and our first taste of winter in the Denver area, is going to slowly start moving across the Midwest into the Great Lakes through the weekend and then getting on out of here. You can also see off the eastern coast of Florida, we've got a little disorganized tropical low that's going to be moving across the peninsula of Florida and then into the Gulf over the next several days, bringing heavy rainfall to Florida and then portions of the Gulf Coast as we get into the early part of next week. We'll look at that here in just a moment. You can see this on the radar picture. Again, here's our upper level low. You see it spinning away across the Rockies. Showers and storms along and ahead of that from the southern plains, parts of Texas and Oklahoma into the Midwest, and then scattered showers and storms ongoing early this morning in a very isolated fashion across parts of Florida down into the Gulf Coast. As we look at the last 7 days of precipitation, it's been kind of split west and east across the southern U.S. Associated with that upper level low, we've seen lots of moisture being drawn northward across parts of Texas and Oklahoma. We've seen a lot of coastal precipitation across the Atlantic coast here. But then we've seen an area of high pressure across the midsection that's kept things dry from the Ohio River southward across Kentucky and Tennessee down into Mississippi and Alabama and then northern Georgia over the last several days. Now we will start to bring some rainfall into that area as we look at the next 7 days of total precipitation from the National Weather Service. And again, we're going to be seeing a lot of that rain here concentrated near the coast across the peninsula of Florida over the next 24 to 48 hours, but then also watching for that little low to make its way eventually northward into parts of the mid-south here as we get into the mid to late next week. So a corridor of heavier precipitation is possible across parts of Mississippi and Alabama and then concentrated there along the coast, but much of the southern U.S. here has the opportunity to pick up about a half an inch or so of rainfall over the next 7 days. The dry spot going to be as you head off toward the west. Western portions of Texas and Oklahoma should be on the dry side as we head through the next 7 days. Now the hazards map is quiet across a big chunk of the country here, and that does include the southern U.S. You have to head well off to the north, parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin, and then northern Maine. You see the blue shading there. That's where we're talking about frost advisories and freeze warnings. Otherwise, pretty quiet across the lower 48. As we get started here on this Friday morning. We'll be quiet as far as severe storms go as well. We do have the risk for some thunderstorms here, but without the real strong upper level support, without a real unstable air mass here, we're not going to be talking about much in the way of organized strong to severe weather anywhere across the lower 48 over the next 3 days through the weekend. Now we are in peak hurricane season, peak tropical system, and that is what this looks like. Just a parade of systems here that we are watching from the Gulf Coast all the way back to Africa here. Now, we've got a couple disorganized systems here that are not expected to develop into tropical storms or hurricanes. This first one's going to just slowly make its way westward across the Gulf. This is the one that's going to bring all the heavy rainfall to the peninsula of Florida and then potentially make its way in here. Again, not becoming an organized, tropical storm or hurricane, but still bringing plenty of rainfall across Florida and then potentially into coastal regions and then central portions of Alabama and Mississippi here as we get into the next part of the week. Paulette over here, tropical storm Paulette. This one is not expected to make landfall in the U.S. It is expected to intensify to a hurricane as we get into Saturday night and Sunday morning. This thing will be curving back off to the east before it gets anywhere close to the U.S. mainland. Could potentially bring some problems to Bermuda, though, if anyone's watching out there this morning. Now, as we look at the upper level pattern here, 500 millibar heights and wind speeds. Again, the polar jet has regrouped and resumed things across the Canadian prairie into eastern Canada. Our cutoff low, which decided to break itself off from the mean flow up there, is going to slowly start to migrate again north and east across the Great Lakes, across the Midwest this weekend, and then off into eastern Canada, where it will rejoin the polar jet there, and then carry on across the Atlantic as we head into early next week. Now, some ridging across the midsection of the country, that's going to allow the parts of the U.S. to warm up. But with this tropical system slowly making its way in here through the southeast, we'll see a lot in the way of rain and cloud cover across this region. So not looking at any excessive heat really across the southern U.S. Now let's look at just the next couple of days with the high-resolution NAM model. Hit play on this and let you just kind of watch it as you head through the weekend. Getting into Saturday now, Saturday night, and then this will stop on Sunday with our little tropical low making its way across Florida into the Gulf Coast at that point. So I'll bring it back. Let's step through times starting here on Friday morning. And again, we'll watch for isolated showers and storms to start popping up as we get into the afternoon. Again, these will be widely isolated, just kind of your summertime pulse thunderstorms. Again, they go up, they come back down, and bring some localized heavy rainfall to some folks. As we head through Friday night into Saturday, we'll see much of that thunderstorm activity quieting down, although the active spot will be as you head across the peninsula of Florida, especially South Florida, seeing a lot of rain and thunderstorms as we get into early Saturday morning from that little low making its way across the area. The potential for some heavy rain will continue for much of the day on Saturday across Florida, with again Saturday afternoon featuring just pulse thunderstorms, little pop-up showers and storms across the southeast from Louisiana into Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, into the Carolinas, and then northward even into the eastern Corn Belt here during the day on Saturday. And let's take it into Saturday night. The thunderstorm activity quiets back down, and then Sunday afternoon we'll see very similar conditions. Again, the heavy rainfall chance across Florida, and then looking for pop-up thunderstorms here across the southeast. We'll see a frontal boundary moving from west to east across the region, potentially bringing slightly more organized thunderstorm activity, but should be scattered in nature still. Now let's take a little step back. Let's look at the European model, and we could take it a little bit further into next week. We'll quickly go through the day-to-day, again watching for just scattered thunderstorms across the south here. And again, I'm broadly speaking here, but we will be dry as you head back toward the west across western Texas into Oklahoma here. But pop-up thunderstorm activity from Arkansas and Louisiana eastward to the Atlantic coast this afternoon with heavier rain across the southern half of Florida. Saturday afternoon, again, pop-up shower and thunderstorm activity from Arkansas and Louisiana eastward to the Atlantic coast and then down across the peninsula of Florida. We'll do the same thing here on Sunday then. Showers and storms scattered in nature from Louisiana and Arkansas eastward to the Atlantic and then down across Florida. And now we're going to see our little tropical low starting to make its way up. So another chance for rainfall concentrated mostly across the coast here as we head through Monday and Tuesday, and then we'll be watching for the potential for some heavy rainfall across this corridor as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We'll talk about that more as we get into the early part of next week and we get more certainty, but it's kind of a daily chance. Again, I'm going to do some more drawing here. Over the next 4 days or so, daily chance across this corridor for those pop-up shower and storm activity with that shower activity. Heavier rainfall across this region over the next 3 days. And then the big question mark is going to be right about in this region, I think, as we get into mid to late next week for the potential for some locally heavy rainfall as that tropical low makes its way up through the area. So I broke the next 10 days of precipitation here in half. So we're looking at days 1 through 5 on the left, days 6 through 10 over here on the right. Again, much of this a product of that pop-up shower and storm activity and then the front sweeping through on Sunday, but you can start to see some of the heavier rainfall accumulating here across the Florida Peninsula, getting into, the panhandle of Florida, getting into parts of Alabama and Mississippi. And then this is the impact of that coastal low as it starts to make its way in, interacting with another potential front as we get into mid to late next week, bringing some heavy rainfall to, again, the panhandle of Florida, and then kind of right around Mississippi and Alabama. This is the operational run, just one run, so this is not exactly how it's going to lay out, but we are able to pick up on the theme here at the very least. Just putting this all together then, we're looking at the European ensemble model here, the probability of picking up 1 inch of rainfall or more over the next 10 days. And again, we're going to be dry as you head off to the west. A big chunk of the Rockies into the central and southern plains is going to get a break from the precipitation here over the next week. The two corridors that will be seeing the heavy rainfall over the next 7 days. First, out of the south, this weekend, Friday and Saturday, we'll see some heavy rainfall across parts of the Midwest. But then it is that daily chance for some some scattered showers and storms, and then the potential for some even heavier coastal precipitation from the tropical low here that brings in the widespread chance here of picking up an inch of rain across the south over the next 10 days or so, even in this area that's been quite dry across the midsection. Now, we do have a potential cold front making its way in as we get into the end of next week. I'll show you what that looks like right now on the operational model run, the operational European. This one has that cold air diving out of the Canadian prairie down into the Midwest as we get into the end of next week. So this is still well out there around September 18th and 19th. This one, The trend is for it to bring some of this cooler air down into the south. I'm hesitant right now because it's for one, it's so far out there. It's 7 to 10 days out there. And also, we saw this advertised just last week with the cold air mass that ended up parking itself across the Rockies and did not make its way into the south. Now, what's different about this one is that the trend right now has been shifting more towards bringing this down to the central and southern part of the U.S. The GFS, so the European bringing this south and then potentially bringing it down into the southern U.S., at least cooling us down a little bit. The GFS curves it off to the east, just bringing it across Canada and maybe the northern Great Lakes. Now, the European ensemble model, though, as of the last 24 hours, picking up on bringing it down into the central and southern United States. So the European model was the one that was right last week. The GFS caved to that one. Additionally, the European ensemble, where we run this model 50 different times, is also starting to pick up on the colder air, making it down into the central U.S. and potentially into the southern U.S., bringing, our first little autumn chill to the south, potentially at the end of next week. Let's just finish with a look at high temperatures of the next 5 days then before we end this video. 80s and 90s for everyone except Texas and Oklahoma today. We'll see 80s and 90s for just about everyone for the day tomorrow as well. Starting to moderate this air mass across the midsection of the country, but then bringing in much more in the way of rain and cloud cover to the south. So we'll actually start to not cool off, but maybe run a degree or two below average across the south as we head into early next week. Temperatures then, as we get into Tuesday, warmer across the northern plains than they will be down across the south. And again, that is because we'll be seeing a lot more in the way of rain and cloud cover across this region, whereas they will be sunny and hot across the northern plains early next week. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll talk to you again on Monday morning.